In this long, miserable wait for a brand new 3D Mario game, I've been told one thing numerous times. Play other games. No, that would require me to spend money on something that I'm not guaranteed to like. I mean, I've made worse financial decisions before, but that's besides the point. Plus, the statement that I only play Mario games isn't even true. See, I'll remove all the Mario games from my shelf and look at what I'm left with. So much not Mario. I could play one of these scary games that I have for some reason. No, I'm too much of a coward. I played Luigi's Mansion yesterday and I had a hard time sleeping last night. Zombie U? Why do I even have this? Ooh, I can just play Wii Sports. That's not Mario. Oh, I'm playing as Mario, me. Okay. Smash Bros doesn't count, does it? And I'm playing as Mario. Eminem's kart racing? Nope. Don't want to unleash another curse again. Okay, fine. Maybe I do need to broaden my horizons, branch out, play something other than jumping Italian man game. But it's just difficult. What if I don't like it? Gaming is expensive. I could spend $60, $70, or even $80 on something I play for an hour and just never touch again. Eminem's kart racing has permanently damaged my trust of the video game industry. But I mean, yeah, branching out is a good idea. But then what if I like it more than Mario? Then what? All of this will be in vain. I don't want my favorite red-wearing cartoon Italian to have that Toy Story 1 moment. Okay, I've done some pondering and I've come to the conclusion that I'm not getting out of this without spending any money, unfortunately. There's hundreds of games on Switch Online that I could try, but I don't have the expansion pack. And most games on the NES, SNES, and Game Boy haven't aged particularly well in my opinion. Shoot me. I just don't want those to be my very first experience with a franchise. For the series I'm going to play, I think it makes sense to stick with Nintendo, and going down their most popular franchises, it's Zelda. It's Nintendo's other flagship series, their second favorite child. Yeah, Pokemon is technically bigger than both, but Nintendo only owns it partially, and I'm too scared to become a Pokemon fan. I do not want to be one of those people. And you might be wondering how I've never played a Zelda game before. I don't know, I just never really appealed to me and I never did. I like my elves at Christmas only, thank you. Plus, the games usually have a slightly higher age rating, hovering around the E10 plus or T at the highest. And when I was a kid, I thought I'd get in legal trouble if I played a game with an age rating higher than my actual age. I remember when I was at a friend's house once and he asked if I wanted to play Smash Bros. Brawl, but I said no. Look at the age rating. I'm not a teen, despite Mario himself literally being on the game's cover. I was an idiot. I'm still an idiot. And why now? Why did I wait until this very moment? What made me want to try this franchise? Well, that direct in June was so bad in my opinion that I realized I simply cannot rely solely on Mario to get through these presentations. They're Nintendo Directs, not Mario Directs. I need to be invested in more than just Mario to fully enjoy them. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a complete stranger to the Zelda series, however. I've played the NES and SNES games for like 5 minutes each before getting stuck. Obviously, I've seen the franchise's representation in Smash Bros. As well as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. The Zelda game in Nintendo Land was pretty fun, being similar to Swordplay Showdown from Wii Sports Resort. And I've also seen the cartoon promoted through the Super Mario Bros. Super Show.
Excuse me, princess.
Maybe that contributed to my lack of interest. Well, that all changes today. I will finally play a Zelda game, Breath of the Wild, the Wii U version. It's cheaper. That is the main and basically only reason I picked this version. Maybe one day I'll get the Switch or Switch 2 version and its sequel if I end up enjoying this game. Maybe. I also just wanted to be kind of funny and quirky. Yeah, let's play one of the Switch's defining titles on the Wii U. Hilarious. I mean, it was the final game released by Nintendo for the poor old Wii U, so I think the historical factor is kinda neat as well. However, this version has some fairly significant frame rate problems, being on incredibly outdated hardware and all. I mean, that's not necessarily at the fault of the game itself, so I won't bring it up from this point forward or, count it against it. Maybe. And I picked this game in particular because it's one of the highest rated in the series. It's fairly inexpensive. It has a very similar sequel, so if I enjoy it, there's more immediately available. And it was so many's first experience with the franchise, being the best-selling one and all. Will this be the game that turns me into a Zelda fan? Well, no, because I believe in order to be a fan of a franchise, you've got to play more than one game. One final note. This isn't going to be structured like my normal reviews. It and the rest of this series, if it continues, will be more loose, talking about things at random rather than having dedicated segments. I was kind of surprised that the first thing you see when you start the game is Link shirtless in a puddle of water. Oh, okay, good, there's a shirt over here. The view is crazy. Wait a minute. Santa Claus? So this is Christmas. Wow. He gives you a bunch of tasks, and then after that, you're basically free to go and do whatever you want. That is absolutely insane to me. This thing that also plays Super Mario 3D World can play this? I mean, yeah, it doesn't play it the best, but it still plays it. The open world is the main thing about this game that really caught my attention. I mean, they made it the main focus of the box art, at least in the North American version. It's very unusual for a Nintendo game to not just shove a iconic character right in your face, but Breath of the Wild knows that you aren't exactly coming to this game for Link. You're here for the open world. I'm glad they chose this for the box art. It really makes it stand out. To be honest, this feels like something that they would make for a cool poster or something that people online would have said that this should be the box art. But it is the box art. The fact that you can climb basically any mountain unless it's raining, I hate the rain, and walk from one side of the map to the other without it having to load anything is absolutely mind-blowing. One of my favorite aspects of the openness is the paraglider. You can jump off basically anything and just glide to the ground if you've got enough stamina. Now, I did discover this strategy that involves just falling and pressing the button right before you land if you don't suck at the game. The map was genuinely awesome, but I think it would have had a bigger impact on me if this was the very first open world game I'd ever played. But I'd still say it completely obliterates any of its competition. Like, it's not ridiculously small, has an actual purpose, and was handcrafted and not just randomly generated. One thing I didn't exactly care for at first were these giant spider-like robot things called Guardians. It genuinely struck some real fear and anxiety into me whenever that dreaded piano music started playing. I get that's the point, but I don't know, I don't exactly do well under stress. Plus their walking animation is really creepy and I don't know why. I always just tried to avoid them, at least after my first encounter when I stupidly attempted to fight one and I died. But then I eventually learned how to kill them and I've never felt more powerful in my life. Deflecting their laser using your shield is one of the most satisfying things in the entire game. The combat in general took some time getting used to, since I'm more experienced with just jumping on enemies rather than attacking them with a sword or a tree branch or a spoon, I guess. You can use a spoon. I'm not exactly doing it right, probably since I just mashed the attack button over and over again. I'm sure there's a more strategic way to go about that. Back to the open world for a second here. I still think it's really cool, but man, can it feel just kind of empty sometimes. Especially when you've got to go from one point to another. It takes a very long time with not much happening outside of some skeletons appearing at night. That sounds familiar. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, it can be kind of overwhelming too. Like, I don't exactly want to 100% complete this game, since from what I've heard, it's the definition of agony. But at the same time, I don't want to miss anything important either. Especially if you realize you missed something after already walking so far away from it and having to make the long trek back. You can fast travel to certain areas on the map, but I just wish there were a few more options personally. Maybe I'm just lazy, even in video games, but it gets kind of tedious. You can ride horses, which I think are a little bit faster, but they control kind of weird, and I just avoided them for the most part, honestly. This isn't me trying to say I dislike the open world. I don't. It's awesome. But after this game, I don't think I'll want to jump into another open world game like this for at least a good while, unless the next 3D Mario game is soon and open world. I went too long without mentioning Mario. I had to. One thing I forgot to mention about combat was the weapon durability. After a bit, your weapons break. I don't know whether I like this or not, and again, I have a strange memory of a game that does something similar to this. I might just be losing my mind. Anyway, I don't think it's bad. It definitely helps with the game's balancing. It keeps you from being completely overpowered. Like, imagine if you had the best sword in the game and you could just use it whenever. But I don't know. I'm aware I'm not the only one to criticize this aspect, and like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a bad mechanic. It fits the open world survival feel this game has. I just wish it was tweaked a little bit. Like, for example, I wish you had more inventory slots. You're only allowed to carry so many weapons, and if you get into a fight with a ton of enemies, all of your weapons break, and then you're essentially doomed. I guess Link doesn't know hand-to-hand combat. I just learned that you can actually upgrade your inventory slots. I'm an idiot. Oops, sorry. Please go ahead and comment about how stupid I am, though. I need the engagement. At least you're given a warning. I'd hate if you had no clue your sword was on its last legs and it just broke randomly. It's still a little bit annoying, though. I believe I remember hearing they implemented this so you'd be more inclined to try and experiment with other kinds of weapons. I mean, I guess that's fair. I think it's kind of funny that you can just throw your weapon if you want. At least I do now. Back when I was still trying to grasp the controls, I accidentally threw one of my best weapons, and it was gone. I only cried a little bit. I wish they supplied you with more weapons as well. I mean, you usually get one after every monster you kill, but it was almost always some garbage. I want more swords, not clubs or wooden spears. I wrote that when I was still early in the game. Later on, they do drop better stuff. I mean, you can get one of the best shields in the game fairly easily. The music was good, I guess, if you could ever even hear it, since a lot of the time you're just hearing the Overworld theme, which is a very, and I mean very simple piano tune. And again, I hate to keep bringing up the bane of professional Smash players, but it kind of reminds me of Minecraft again. I'm not going to mention Minecraft anymore, I don't think, but, you know, a lot of the similarities are only coming to me because Minecraft is the closest game in sheer world scale that I've played before, I think. The different themes for the villages and stuff were a lot better though, because they actually had music. Plus, it was a really nice change of pace from the simple Overworld music. That more empty sound to the Overworld definitely helped in putting me on edge a little bit, especially when combined with everything else. The towns having mostly more upbeat music with more instruments helped me to feel more at ease, I guess. I really liked the shrines for the most part, basically being just little puzzle rooms, you know, mainly using your weird iPhone tablet thing powers. Speaking of those, they were really interesting. I did feel a little bit overwhelmed since you're basically just given them all at once, but it wasn't that hard to manage. I definitely used
Bombs?
the most, mainly to blow up trees. You get wood that you can light on fire and rest, which skips time forward to morning, noon, or night. I do wish there was an afternoon option, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, the ice was kind of cool, I guess, pun intended. I thought it was really clever when you had to use it to open gates up from below. The one that freezes things in place and allows you to hit them, which causes them to go flying, was pretty cool and neat too. I remember seeing videos online of people using it to cross like half the map at once or something. They'd use the thing, hit it a bunch, and then grab on and just go flying. I couldn't do it. The magnet was the one that I liked the least initially, I think. It was just kind of annoying thinking I was going to be able to magnetize something and it wasn't metal. Again, that's just a new player issue probably. But eventually it became one of my most used because I used it to find hidden treasure chests in the water. And there were also these metal boxes sometimes that you could just take and beat enemies into a pulp with them, which was kind of fun. Then there's the camera. How could I forget the camera? You can take pictures with it. Okay. There's also the amiibo one, which I did not use at all. I don't have a single Zelda amiibo yet, so I don't think I would have gotten anything useful from using the ones that I do have. To be honest, I didn't really talk much to the NPCs, only when necessary.
Sorry, Link.
I gave him my real-life social anxiety. One of my favorite facts I learned about the NPCs, though, while looking at facts about the game, is that they're kind of built off of Mii's, and people even found a way to change the faces of them using Mii's, which is pretty cool. Despite mostly ignoring them, I enjoyed their presence, I guess, especially after long stretches of being in the barren, uninhabited parts of the world. It was just nice to see someone that wasn't a deformed pig monster thing or a slime. Speaking of which, it did feel kind of eerie at times. There's just something about an almost empty world with the only sign of life being things that want to kill you that just kind of puts me on edge for some reason. I mean, it is essentially a post-apocalyptic world with only a few communities still around, and that's why the stables were always a bit of a relief to see in the distance too. I can't believe I went this far without mentioning the voice acting. It's not terrible, but as someone who doesn't really play games with voice acting and his only frame of reference for a game with voice acting is this, or watching Hotel Mario cutscenes, it was fine. And this is actually not the first Zelda game with voice acting. You can't forget the series CDI games. It's just one of those things I kind of got used to. And I would definitely say this game's acting was a lot better than Mario Sunshine's. No Toads helped a ton. They both use voice acting in very similar ways, actually. Not every line was fully voiced, just the important cutscenes. And when you talk to random NPCs, it would just be gibberish. Sunshine wins in that department though. Toadsworth's incoherent just noises are hard to beat. The controls felt good, about how I expected. I still struggled with them though, since I kept forgetting which shoulder or trigger button did what. Like I previously mentioned with the accidental throwing of a weapon. But again, not a flaw of the game itself, I just wasn't used to them at first. I find it crazy how many different things you can do in this game. It features stuff from like 20 different genres. Obviously, it's primarily an open world action adventure game, but there's some RPG stuff, stealth, heavy survival elements, puzzle, even hunting if you want to count that. Speaking of which, I'm surprised what animals they let you kill. You can kill wolves and stuff. It's just kind of weird. I'm surprised this didn't affect the age rating at all, just being E10 plus. I mean, it's not like violent or anything, they just poof into dust, but still. When you accidentally kill a horse though, it is pretty brutal. Or if you're like me and you purposely killed one because you thought it would drop something, it's just kind of disturbing since they don't immediately disappear. They just lay there dead for a few seconds while you think about what you did before eventually just turning into a cloud of dust. The only things you couldn't hurt were people and dogs. I mean, you can technically hurt people. They react when you swing a sword, and there's also like an enemy group that are people that you can kill, but like not the random civilians. One of my absolute favorite parts though, no exaggeration, is the physics. When you blow up an enemy and it just goes flying 100 feet in the air, it's hilarious every single time. It's also kind of funny when Link gets knocked down a cliff and rolls like 100 feet too. And then when I actually managed to do the flurry rush, which requires backflipping or moving out of the way at the right time, it's really satisfying. It goes all slow motion and you just mash the attack button. Since I played this game on the Wii U, I figured I should discuss the exclusive features to this version since it uses the gamepad and all. You know, I expected the simple menu and inventory navigation, arguably the most boring yet practical use of the gamepad. Let's see what happens. Tapping the screen just switches the game from being played on the TV to the gamepad and vice versa. That's kind of disappointing. It means that the entire game can be played on the gamepad, which is nice, I guess, but I don't know. Zero unique uses for it outside of that is pretty disappointing. Oh well. I'm not going to lie, I completely abused saving in my playthrough. Why wouldn't I? They let you do it anytime, anywhere. For the most part, like if I was about to go to an area with a powerful enemy, I would save beforehand. I'm a Zelda newcomer, guys, you gotta give me a break. And I also used the guide pretty frequently for at least the first half of my playthrough. I did as much as I could without one, but again, I don't know what I'm doing here. Wait, I just realized something. A lot of my struggles might have come from the fact that I covered Link up with a picture of Mario to ease myself into the game. And then I forgot to take it off. Anyway.
Bombs?
I had a really fun time with this game, honestly a lot more than I expected. But do I think it's one of the greatest games of all time like many have claimed? Objectively? Maybe. I don't know if I would put it there personally. It was still really good, but do I think it deserved Game of the Year over Mario Odyssey? No. It will be very, very hard, basically next to impossible to take that game's spot as my favorite of all time. You can keep trying though. However, I don't exactly disagree with the choice, plus I think it's kind of funny that a Wii U game technically won Game of the Year. I'm so glad I finally gave this game a try. It's nice to say that I enjoyed a game where it was physically impossible to play as Mario or any Mario character. Sorry, Mario. Also, don't take this video as a definitive review. I just wanted to share my first experience and thoughts with this series in an attempt to broaden my horizons and maybe even inspire somebody else to do the same thing. Plus, I think any of the problems I mentioned with the game can just be attributed to me not knowing what I'm doing. First-time player frustrations, you know, and they might not exactly be flaws with the game itself. With the help of the internet and abused save states, I did have a good time. My favorite aspect has to be the open world. It just gives you such a sense of freedom. I can go basically anywhere I want, except when you can't. My least favorite thing, probably the weapon durability. Again, I understand that it has a place, but I still found it slightly frustrating. It just made me not want to use my best weapons in fear of them breaking. Will I end up playing another Zelda game at some point in the future? Probably. And in fact, I'd say that Breath of the Wild is currently my favorite Zelda game. Definitely a top tier Wii U game as well, right next to Super Mario 3D World and whatever the opposite of Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is. Glad I gave this series a try and I'm 100% willing to play another game. I mean, there's the Ocarina of Time remake releasing later this year, so I might end up getting that. And that's a positive to me waiting so long. There's a huge backlog of games out right now that I can go play. Just definitely not Tears of the Kingdom, at least not quite yet. Let me know if you want a future episode on that Ocarina of Time remake. For every video in this series, I think it would be interesting to show my total playtime for the game whenever it applies. So here's mine for Breath of the Wild. Less than 50 hours. Take that, howlongtobeat.com. That's just a testament to how ginormous this game is. I barely touched the side quest, and I didn't even come close to exploring every point on the map, and yet it still took nearly 50 hours. And the crazy part is that I never got bored. Sure, I did start to get a little bit tired, I guess, towards the end, but that's most likely just due to me putting 50 hours into one game in 2 weeks. That just makes me sound incredibly pathetic. I need to cut that out. I'll definitely return to this game at some point and do some more of the side stuff. I'm not doing 100%, maybe 50%. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more episodes of this new branching out series in the future, and what games or franchises I should talk about next.
You should do Fire Emblem next.
No.
Bombs?